What's up, everybody? We're back with another quick intro on today's episode. We had Christopher Wein, the COO of Lanterra Developments. Many of you know Lanterra, very, very reputable building in the city of Toronto. It built some very notable buildings like Notting Hill, Toy Factory Lofts, 11 Wellesley, and we're going to get into everything you need to know about the future of the Toronto real estate market, the pre-con market, our city as a whole, all of our development, all the opportunities coming to the city, spoken from someone as high level as Christopher. And I think you guys are going to love this one. So I won't waste any more time. Enjoy the episode with Christopher Wein. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Price Still podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Campoli. I want to give a big shout out to all you guys for consistently showing love, supporting, sharing with everybody. You guys are awesome. You keep this thing going. So thank you. And as a response to that, you already know we're bringing you to value today. Another really amazing guest you guys will probably know. We have Mr. Christopher Wein, the COO of Lanterra Developments. And Lanterra, as some of you may know, well known for projects like Toy Factory Lofts, Treviso 123, Notting Hill, 11 Wellesley, and some really exciting upcoming projects like 31 Parliament, Natasha Residences, 50 Scholard, and more. So thank you, Christopher, for coming.
Oh, you're welcome. Glad to be here.
Yeah, it's awesome. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of people already know Lanterra.
Yep.
Majority will know. But for those that don't, let's give a little background into Lanterra. But we'll start with you.
Okay.
And your story.
Sure. I was born just north of Toronto, spent most of my misspent youth as an athlete, mainly a skier, and ended up traveling all over the world.
That's cool.
I traveled all across Canada, I lived in Australia for a while, traveled all through Europe and so on. When I was in my mid-20s, I decided to settle down and get into actually marketing. So I started a marketing agency out west, which is where I'd settled because of the big mountains. Became very successful in that, ended up selling that company and going directly into real estate development. So from my early 30s to the last 25 years, I basically have run various development and construction companies across Canada. So I came back to Toronto about 12, 13 years ago. I was, at the time, I came to be president of Great Gulf. I was there for several years, and then I transitioned to Lanterra as chief operating officer of the development company and president of the construction company.
That's awesome. So you have this heavy marketing background.
I had a heavy marketing background and a construction background because even when I was, when I started to work in my teens, I always worked on construction sites, and I always loved things like framing and electrical, mechanical, and so on. So I always, even when I was a kid, my family and we would do our own construction, build our own stuff at home, and so on and so forth. So I always really liked the idea of creation. And then the marketing side really was a love for design, which is why I so much enjoy architecture and interior design and basically building, giant monumental buildings. It's very rewarding. So
you're built for this.
Yes, absolutely.
So why don't we have any ski simulator amenities?
That's a great idea.
Right?
Yes. We've done golf simulators.
Yeah.
But I like the idea of ski simulators.
Bring
I did do a lot of ski. I did a lot of projects in Canmore and Banff and the Okanagan. So I did projects right on the side of ski hills.
Cool.
But those weren't simulators. Those were real ski hills. But as for Lanterra, you also asked about Lanterra. Lanterra is almost a 25-year-old company. It was started by Mark Mendelbaum and Barry Fenton. Always high-density mixed-use high-rise. And over the last 25 years, Lanterra has built about 25,000 condominium units throughout the GTA, mainly focused on the downtown core.
Yeah. Yeah, and you've had even offshore, we're talking about some other projects you guys have done, like Maple Leaf Square.
Absolutely. Very proud of Maple Leaf Square because it completely changed that entire district, and then also ICE and ICE 2.
Yeah.
So that whole sort of new district between the Scotiabank Center and Rogers Center, that Lanterra really was the pioneer down there.
Yeah. I mean, it's prime.
Absolutely. Well, it's
Right?
prime now.
Yes.
When they first saw it, it was like fields of empty railroad tracks and parking lots. But now it's actually spectacular. It's amazing to see how it's built out.
Yeah, super cool. And like, my audience knows I do a lot of Airbnb, so
Yep.
those are well-known Airbnb buildings.
Absolutely.
And I asked you off camera, but I think the audience would love to know this: is how is that determined whether a building will go through with allowing that or not?
Sure. So there's a couple of things. So obviously, Airbnb was in its infancy when it came to condo buildings, say 10 or 12 years ago, especially in Toronto. So no one really understood what it meant or what it was going to do. So back when we were building buildings 5 years ago, 10 years ago, we didn't really think about Airbnb. Now condo corps can be sensitive about it depending on the nature of the building. So often, some boards and some developers, including ourselves, depending on the building, will put in restrictions into the condo docs around whether you can do short-term rental or Airbnb style stuff. As far as ICE and ICE 2, the popularity of Airbnb in those buildings, I think really comes down to three things. One, they're iconic buildings in one of the best neighborhoods in the city. If you're a traveler and you can be walking distance to the CN Tower, the Rogers Center, and the Scotiabank Center, and the entertainment district, of course you would stay there. The units are well designed for short-term stays because a lot of small units, and the buildings have spectacular amenities and outrageous views. So it's just sort of a natural, whereas perhaps a suburban project like our Notting Hill project is at Eglinton and Royal York Road, so kind of suburban Etobicoke. Even with or without restrictions, you're really not going to get a lot of Airbnb type stays there because it's more of a residential neighborhood. It's not really where someone visiting Toronto would want to stay to party and go to concerts and go to games and stuff like that.
For sure. I agreed. I do agree. I have one at 300 Front Street.
Yep.
Tridel.
Exactly. Yeah.
Literally CN Tower, Rogers Center, Scotiabank Arena, Entertainment District.
Correct.
So it's they do extremely well,
Absolutely.
even amidst all the rules and things like that we have nowadays. But you mentioned that you guys were the pioneers of, breadner, that area there.
Yep.
So what are some factors do you guys consider when, looking at prospective lands to purchase?
Sure. So, because again, we really focus on, high density urban sites and really the 416, what we really look for is what are the amenities within, a particular area. So whether it's arenas and sports stadiums, transit's a really big thing for us. So we really focus on stuff like subways and streetcars, employment use. So really looking at how, what's the proximity to the financial district, and then things like entertainment. So we love the entertainment district. We love Distillery. That's where 31 Parliament is. We just started construction. Fantastic project.
Yep.
We really like Yorkville. So we've done a lot of buildings in and around Yorkville. We have 50 Scholard right now in the heart of Yorkville, right next to the Four Seasons. So I would say we look for amenity-rich neighborhoods.
Yeah. Yeah, it's awesome. And you guys have like a whole research team?
We do. So when it comes to buying land, so we have a pretty large team. So Lanterra employs about 220 full-time staff. We also have our own construction company. So we do the construction, all the construction supervision, all the labor is run by Lanterra. So within Lanterra, we have marketing, planning, research, finance, acquisitions, partnerships, and then of course, construction and customer care and warranty and so on. So we're a fully integrated, vertically integrated company. The only thing we don't do is property management. We feel that property management is better done by the large condominium management companies that can manage 50, 60,000 suites at a time.
Yeah.
But everything else is done in-house.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, like I said, you guys are super well known, great reputation.
Thank you.
What's your favorite project so far? If you had to
Oh,
pick.
there's a few. So, I really like 31 Parliament. I
live in that area. So
yeah,
I'm
I
a
love
biased.
I love Distillery District. I love the East Side. I acquired that site, so I found it and did the negotiation for it.
Nice.
I think it's the architects that helped us design the building came from New York, so it's Architectonica. We do like to use very creative architects, and we try and mix up the architecture quite a bit. So one thing I would say is a signature of Lanterra is every building is unique to its location and to kind of the vibe we're trying to create. So Lanterra doesn't do cookie cutter. So Parliament's cool because it really feels like a New York loft style building. It's all brick, 41 stories, but it's a full brick building. So it's, it's less modern looking and more kind of that Chelsea market type look, which suits distillery. The other one that I love is 50 Scholard, which is designed by Foster and Partners, both out of New York and out of London. So Norman Foster, world's most famous architect. And it's spectacular. It's the epitome of luxury. It will be the most expensive built condominium building ever in Toronto's history.
Oh, wow.
On a per unit, per square foot basis. It's also 41 stories, but it's only 125 units. And units there can run as high as $20 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's the per square foot there?
It varies. So, the smallest units at the bottom of the building, with less than stellar views, 2,200. The best units in the building are almost 3,700 a foot. And sales have been brisk. So we're still in market with that building. It's under full construction. I'm just about to pour the fourth floor. But out of 125 units, we only have about, I believe we have 19 units left.
Oh, wow.
And we have made several sales north of $10 million within the building.
That's amazing.
So that market is alive and well in Toronto.
New York, here we come.
Yes, exactly.
All right. Yeah. So that's that perfect segue, because I'd love to, the hot topic right now is Toronto market, the real estate market as a whole, right? Like what's going on, whether it's resale, pre-con, but pre-con obviously softened a little bit, right?
Correct. Yes.
So what's your take on the current nature of where we're at? A lot of people will look at, like, we've always had the psychology back in the day, 1,000 a square foot. Like it's not going to go beyond that, then 1,300, then 1,500. So let's start with the current market with pre-con.
Yeah, so here's where things are at from a market perspective, and this happens in Toronto almost every sort of 5 to 7 years, and they sort of say, not with respect to Toronto real estate, but economists are always like, little mini recessions come in sort of 7-year cycles. So the last time we had a challenge in Toronto real estate was the big collapse of Lehman Brothers and the great financial, recession of 2009, 10, 11. And now we're in this sort of funkiness with rapid inflation and high interest rates and soft sales. And I would actually say the two there is some similarities to the two things, because there's two things that are consistent within Toronto that are maybe unique to other places. One is the development market in Toronto, the developer market, both single family and high rise. They're very large companies. They're very old companies, and they're very well-financed companies. So for the most part, the majority of the market is not desperate to sell. So what happened in 2011 and 12 is most of the developers just said, you know what, let's not launch anything. Let's wait for, sunnier days, and we'll just sit on our lands and we'll see what happens. We'll continue to work through approvals and so on and so forth, but we're not going to rush to market. And I would suggest in the last year, the same thing happened. So 2021 was good. 2022 started to soften because of the interest rate hikes, and you started to see less and less projects coming to market. So there's very few launches in the fall of 2022, almost none in the spring of 2023, and I think that sort of attitude is going to continue. So we're going to be in a situation where, yes, sales are soft, but also new inventory is not coming to market, so it's kind of balancing out. The other thing that's unique about the Toronto market is immigration. We know that 25 to 30% of everybody who lives in Canada lives in the GTA, which is pretty outrageous when you think about it. Canada just hit 40 million people, and the GTA has 10 million people. So if you do that math, it boggles your mind.
Yeah.
If you thought 1 in 4 Americans lived in New York City or the greater New York area, that'd be 96 million people.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy. And immigration's even more slanted. So, we know that 60% of new immigrants stay in the GTA. So the GTA is just growing at this outrageous pace, and immigration didn't slow down in the last year, it sped up. So we know in the last 12 months, more than 1 million people came into Canada. So that means 500 to 600,000 new people came into the GTA. Yet we're building less and we're launching less. So what does that mean? It means prices are soft today, but they're not going to be soft forever, because the demand is just spiking behind the scenes, which we can't quite see, but it's there. And then we're building less and less at this moment in time, and we're launching less and less. So similar to what happened in around 2015, 2016, we're going to get this explosion of demand, and prices are going to pop back up. So, long answer, but the luxury market's selling really well right now because the luxury buyers don't care about interest rates. They don't use mortgages, and they're smart enough to read the tea leaves and say, you know what, the market's soft. Now I should be buying, because if I wait a year to a year and a half, prices are going to spike again by $200 or $300 a foot. So right now, downtown core, $1,700 a foot is sort of the price. It got as high as 18, 19 when it was really frothy a year ago. I think a year from now, because I think the market's going to come back strong in 2024, downtown core is going to be north of 2,000. So people who aren't buying now are going to regret it. They're going to say, oh, I should have bought when things were soft. But we're like anything. We go in packs. Mm-hmm. So when the stock market's down, no one wants to buy the stock market. When the stock market's high, everybody wants to buy the stock market. It's like that in real estate. We should buy low, sell high, but we always, get nervous when prices are low, and then we get frantic when prices are high. So we're in that same mode. If I was talking to a real estate investor, I'd say buy everything you can right now, because it's typically on sale at this moment in time, and that's not going to last for much more than 6 months.
Yeah, I can totally agree. I mean, I preach this all the time to clients, right? It's crazy how human psychology works and how everyone moves with the herd.
Yes.
And it's funny when in those hot markets like the 2016s and even early 2022, people don't even know why they're overpaying.
Correct.
They don't even know.
Yes.
It's just a FOMO. It's a fear of missing out. And they just see like everyone's buying a house and everything's selling for top dollar. It's like, I guess I have to
100%
pay more too, right? And it's funny how that works. But even now we're dealing with this new wave media.
Yep.
And I want your opinion on some recent headlines. One claiming that Toronto condo buyers, or essentially pre-construction buyers, were like losing their shirts, essentially, right? So what's your take on those headlines and the reality?
Sure. So I've got a perfect reality because because we have so much in market at any given time. So the beauty of Lanterra is we always have stuff that's under construction. So why we're starting projects, we're finishing projects. So we just finished registered a project, 850 units at Yonge and College. So it's called Tea House, 2 towers, beautiful project. We started closings about 2 months ago, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, interest rates are up. Mortgages are way higher for these people than they ever thought. This is going to be a disaster. 200 people are going to, default. You're going to have to take units back. You're going to be taking keys back, and so on and so forth. And I'm like, let's just see about that. I'm not entirely sure that's right, but even the bank was a little nervous. Not a single default. Every single person closed. No delays, no issues. Why is that? Because they bought pre-construction, which was 5 years ago. 5 years ago, the average unit sold for $900 a foot. Even in a soft market, if you had to sell quickly, that building is $1,400 to $1,500 a foot all day long. So who's losing money on that? Yes, if you would have closed a year and a half ago, you would have closed at the same price, and you would have had a 3% mortgage versus maybe a 5% mortgage. But at the end of the day, your equity appreciation is up 30%. So this idea that pre-construction, all these people are going to lose money is incorrect. Where the confusion comes is, so let's just deal with simple math. I bought a 1,000 square foot unit. I paid $800,000. I closed on it a month ago. That unit in today's market appraised is worth $1.4 million. So I just made $500,000. But I still have to get a mortgage and so on and so forth. So I get a mortgage against my $800,000 purchase price less my deposit. Interest rates are up, so my mortgage is up. So does my mortgage, if I want to rent that unit, does my rent cover my mortgage? Not necessarily. So maybe my mortgage payment is $3,000 and my rent is coming in at $2,800 and my condo fees are another $500. So then an investor would look at it. If you're the Toronto Star, you'd say, okay, well, the guy's paying $3,600 a month to own that unit, and he's only bringing in $2,700 or $2,800 a month in rent. Okay, so that's a little upside down. But the equity appreciation is $500,000. And that situation of having to subsidize that unit as an owner investor for $500, $600 a month, So how much is that a year? That's $6,000 a year. I made $500,000 in profit. How long am I going to have to do that? Maybe 2 years? Because 2 years from now, the rent is going to be $3,800 and the mortgage is going to be down because interest rates are going to come back down. So it's this sky is falling temporary situation, which makes no sense. And similar story, from my wife had a unit, wasn't pre-construction. She bought it pre-construction. She owned it for several years at King and Bathurst, and she wanted to sell it because she's like, we don't need all these condos, and I'm renting it and so on and so forth. So during the pandemic, rents went down. She had to reduce the rent, so she ended up subsidizing it $500 a month. And she's like, you know what? I should sell it because I'm upside down. Like between mortgage and condo, it's costing $500. I'm like, honey, just relax. I'm like, right now we're in the middle of a pandemic. If you sell it now, best you're going to get is $600,000. She's like, okay, no problem. I'll wait. I'll trust your judgment and I'll subsidize the thing. She subsidized it for 12 months, cost her $6,000. She sold it a year later at a cost of $6,000 for $697,000. So by holding it for a year and covering $6,000 in monthly in $500 losses, she made another $97,000.
Yeah.
So that's the secret to the Toronto condo market is when the newspapers look at it and when these headlines come out, they're focused on what's the carry cost versus what's the income. That's not a great way to look at things. That's one metric, but you also have to look at what did you pay for the unit 5 years ago when you bought it pre-construction and what is it worth the day you close on it. And that's where the magic of the Toronto condo market is. And the question then becomes, well, Chris, what if condos drop? Condos will go down by 20 or 30%. Is that humanly possible over a 5-year span when you have a city that's growing by 300,000 to 400,000 residents every single year, year after year, bar none? And the Canadian government has just said they're going to push immigration harder than ever for the next decade. So you can't have higher demand and have prices go down. So it's a very safe asset. It's a very, I think most Canadians have made their retirement savings and built equity through home ownership, more so than any other. They're not making money. I'm not talking rich people. I'm talking middle class. That's how most people, including myself. I grew up poor. I remember scrimping to save for my very first house. And every house I've owned subsequently, I've always made money through home ownership. I've never lost money through home ownership. So
When did you start buying?
I bought my first house when I was 22 years old. It was out west. It was $100,000 for a pre-construction, single family, 1,200-foot bungalow, wood framed, no garage, no nothing.
Again, just for the mindsets here, did that 100K, was that a lot for you at the time?
It was insane.
Right?
My girlfriend and I ate Ichiban noodles for a year and a half
Crazy.
to save up for a $15,000 deposit. It was insane how hard we had to save. But then we sold that house 5 years later for double the price.
And now, 5 years for 100K.
Yeah.
Now people are doing 100K every year, essentially, in a lot of these pre-con projects.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah. It's so funny because it's actually like very simple in a way to understand.
Correct.
If you can just look through the smoke.
Exactly.
Right? Smoke and mirrors. And I think the most crucial thing right now is immigration.
Yes.
The amount of pressure just coming in that's going to just keep things floating.
Correct.
Even if it was like just trying to crack, it's like,
Correct.
So it's super interesting. And I want to get your thought process on Toronto rents.
Yep.
Rental market's doing great right now. Most people do the equity play when they're buying a condo, right?
Yes.
They're like, I'd rather subsidize maybe a couple $100 a month, $500 a month, but I'm going to do the 50, 60, 70 grand a year in equity.
Correct.
That's how I'm going to make my money.
Correct.
Do you think with the way prices are going, and now rents are flying, do you think people will ever be able to hit that cash flow?
Yes. No, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. I think, the key with the cash flow, and this is the same for, there's also headlines, thousands of purpose-built rental buildings are on hold because of interest rates, because of cap rates, so on and so forth. It's really the interest rate that makes, has the effect. So when we hear stories or see headlines that, whoever, like this pension fund canceled 2,000 units because, of what's happening in the market, is not because of rent. It has to do with interest rates. So it's the cost of the mortgage, whether it's my construction financing which is a form of mortgage, whether it's a pension fund's ownership of a building, which is a form of mortgage, or whether it's an individual investor or homeowner and their mortgage. If interest rates are at 2 or 3%, which we all believe they're going to go back to, then absolutely you can make money on the rents. But when interest rates go up to 5, 6, 7, it starts to get a little tricky. And if interest rates go to 9 or 10, it gets worse. So it's really not the purchase price is not the definitive thing. It's really what is your carrying cost based on what's your interest rate. It's interesting because we have this sort of strange time with hyperinflation right now, and that's why Bank of Canada is increasing the rates. But even Bank of Canada and all the charter banks are signaling this is temporary. This is not going to last. And what we see and why I think there's going to be some big launches coming out in the next 6 to 12 months is, remember, if you're buying pre-construction, so if you're buying a project from me, we're gonna have launches. I can't tell you where, but Lanterra's gearing up to launch some new projects next spring. If you buy from us at pre-construction, you're probably putting up $100,000 to $200,000 over a period of time, and then your mortgage isn't going to be for 5 years. Well, 5 years from now, interest rates are not going to be what they are today. So today, people shouldn't be using today's sort of math. What they should be thinking is, can I afford the deposit? Buy in an area that you know is upwardly mobile, and buy with a developer that you believe builds a quality product. I don't think you can go wrong. I think out of the 25,000 units we built, it'd be hard to find someone who said they lost money on Lanterra.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and stop marrying the rate.
Correct.
Right?
Yes, exactly.
People are just like really narrow
today's
focused.
rate is not what's going to happen 5 years from now when you close on that unit. And even for young people always ask me, how do I get into the market? I always recommend buy pre-construction. I'm like, rent in the meantime, buy pre-construction. So, and people worry too much about, am I getting a good deal? You shouldn't think that way. You should think, am I buying in a neighborhood that I think in 5 years is going to be the next Yorkville, which places like Distillery are going to just explode in value, especially with all the waterfront stuff that's happening. Like you can tell the areas of the city.
Yeah.
I told people to buy in Leslieville 7 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
They're all thrilled now. They're like, oh my God, I'm so glad I bought in Leslieville, because Leslieville exploded. So
yeah, I live East Bayfront.
Oh, beautiful.
So I'm seeing it all just
Exactly.
change. And I mean, it's like the last, I guess, big piece of waterfront left, right?
Correct.
And I'm just watching that. My view is of Cherry.
Yes.
And everything that's going on there. So it's exciting to see what that view would look like in the future.
It's going to be outrageous. It's going to be
It's
spectacular.
such a good vibe.
Absolutely.
It's such a good East End, my friends.
East End is where the value is.
Yeah.
West End, we love West End. We build in the West End, but if you're thinking, the future, the East has more upward potential than the West will always be money. The West is money. It's like gold standard, but it's already gold standard. So gold only goes up so fast.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the East is a little bit sort of like diamond in the rough. So that's where there's, I always like to tell people, again, be comfortable with the neighborhood, but if you can buy in an up and coming area, that's really the future. Like, it's like Parkdale. I love Parkdale. I loved Trinity Bellwoods 5 years ago. I still love it today, but 7 years ago, Trinity Bellwoods was like an unpolished gem.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I love it. It's a good perspective people need to have, So, and again, in summary, I guess, based on everything you're saying, I'm hearing this a lot too. It's a lot of similarities, but 6-7 months, it's going to kind of remain the same. We're
Correct.
kind of, embrace what's going on, and then things are just going to pop off potentially.
Correct. So I would say that if you have the means to buy now, the next 3 to 6 months, great time to find value in the market, and a great time to find deals, so to speak. I think if you're holding off, thinking that the market is going to drop, I think you're to be sadly mistaken. And if you believe 2024, we're going to be in some crazy recession and Toronto real estate prices are going to come down 15, 20%, that isn't happening. And most likely it's going to be the inverse, recession or not. And you're going to be like, damn it, I missed the opportunity. So if you have it, buy now. If you don't have it, start thinking about where you want to be, because the frothiness is going to start to come pretty quickly.
Yeah. A lot of my biggest clients are loading up for Q4.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, Christopher, you've been awesome.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, this is a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'd love to plug in some of your inventory projects and things you have on the go
Absolutely.
right now.
Yes. Yeah. So again, 31 Parliament, we still have about 75 units left. It's you can still get some deals there.
And that's
because
the East End we're
that's
talking
East
about.
End
That's
Distillery.
literally what we're just talking about.
Exactly. And we just started construction. So we're on our way down into the ground. So, we're 3 levels down already. We'll be putting a crane up by September. Number 2, Natasha, 263 Adelaide, heart of the entertainment district. Great project. There's about 100 units left. We're just going to start ramping up sales again because I've started demo, and construction will start in September, October. And we always do deals right before we start construction. 50 Scholard, as I said, there's about 20 units left. Super luxury, and you'd regret it if you're in the luxury market. And then the last one I want to plug is Glen Hill. Glen Hill is another luxury building, mid-rise, 9 stories, at Bathurst and Glencairn. It's a spectacular building. If that's a neighborhood that appeals to you, which a lot of people really enjoy, that sort of Bathurst area, right next to the subway. Again, we're halfway through construction, and there's still some inventory there where you can get some deals. So those are the 4 I'll plug, and then look for Lanterra to start being back in the market with a brand new project early next year.
Amazing. Well, Christopher, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And to everyone out there, do your duties. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. This was a lot of value. I'm sure you guys can agree. And excited to see you guys on the next one. Until then, peace.